Let's scroll down in the string option settings. I suggest to myself to input again the default values in these two environment lighting string options. So let's input again 4 for the environment lighting approximate split and 2 for the environment lighting approximate split width, and hit enter every time you enter one value in the string options to confirm. And I would like to draw your attention on the environment lighting scale value set to the default value of 0.318. So the reason of this is the reason that our image is very dark, and the reason that we input this by default is explained by Dagon on CG Talk, quite clear, even if the concept is a little bit complicated, but I will show you now. If we open the PDF, here I explain this concept. So notice the default input value 0.318 set in the value string of the environment lighting scale string option. Let's scroll down a little bit more and Dagon explain why. You see also from the screenshot you can see, if I enlarge a little bit. Let's use the hand tool. You see, this is the 0.318. Let's zoom out again. Okay, so let's see Dagon what he explained, why we should use this option. If you use Mia materials, like we are using now, you probably need to multiply all the direct light by the value 3.14, including the sun. Sun, he means the physical sun and sky. And this is for E-ray, okay, but it works also for the other things. Since that E-ray is using the internal built-in shader. The built-in material architecture assumes that the light is calculated as irradiance, but most traditional light shaders don't return irradiance, but rather return irradiance divided by P, the average radiance for diffuse surfaces. The Mia material and the daylight system is the physical sun and sky node, the mental ray physical sun and sky node, are built to work in the conventional way. So there is a main discrepancy between the two systems, and this is the reason why I'm using this string value with the environment lighting IBL workflow in conjunction to the Mia materials and to the physical sun and sky node. As you can see, the 0.318 value. Back to the Maya scene. To increase the illumination, there are a few ways. One way is to, first we should input again the light mode to the environment light mode to light, which is the final quality settings, okay, and is the default when you open this. Enter, okay. So to increase the light contribution when you use a scene with the environment lighting, when the environment IBL and PR string option in conjunction with the physical sun and sky and the Mia portal light and the Mia materials, Mia material X or whatever is Mia material, okay, or you use the default, there are two ways to increase the light, or you use the default 0.318 value in the environment lighting scale string option, or you increase the color multiplier in the physical sun and sky. So just go to the render settings one more time, which are already open, and scroll to the physical sky node. As you can see here, the multiplier is set to 1, the default. I prefer, when I use the IBL and the PR string options in conjunction with the physical sky node and the mental ray sun and sky node in conjunction with the portal light and the Mia materials, in my personal workflow, by beta testing, I find out that the best option to increase the light is to increase the multiplier in the physical sky node. So let's just input 4 to increase the light contribution and press enter to confirm. Please note that I could also increase the light contribution by increasing the intensity of the portal light. So just select the area light, and in the area light scroll down to the mental ray section under the area light shape, and here there is the portal light as I showed you earlier in the presentation. Select it, and you can increase the light contribution by increasing this value, the intensity multiplier of the portal light. But by beta testing, I find out that when you use the intensity multiplier value, you increase this value of the portal light, the image will be very dull, I don't know how you say in English, anyway, without contrast, very boring picture, let's say, very flat lighting. For this reason, I prefer to use the color multiplier, means the multiplier of the physical sky node. So let's just start. First of all, we check again that all the string options are okay. Let's scroll down again in the string options. This is the boring part. You have always to open the editor all the time, but it's okay. So let's scroll down to the environment lighting mode. Okay, set to light. Everything else is set to the default, so it's fine. Let's leave the default value of the environment lighting scale to the default 0.318. Now that we just increased the multiplier of the physical sky node, open again the render view panel and let's try one more render. So open again the output window, and now it's computing final gather points. Now final gather is still computing final gather points, and I can see that the light contribution is already much more than before, but it's still not enough. So I will interrupt the render just by press the S key, and we will go back to the color multiplier value of the physical sun and sky. So just press again this icon, and in the multiplier field let's input 8 and hit enter, and let's go back to render. Now the light contribution will be definitely enough. Render region again, output window again, open. As you can see, the irradiance particles are not calculated this time, are not computed, because they always the same bug of the render setting panel, of the indirect lighting tab and the quality tab. Anyway, let's run the rendering. Now that the final gather computation is almost done, you can see from the tiles already the black tiles are disappearing from the image. Now start again the progressive sampling, subsampling, and as you can see the image is much brighter than before. The light contribution from the sky from the fundamental ray physical sun and sky is much more than before, and the result is very pleasing. As you can see, there is also contrast, as opposed as if you used to increase the intensity multiplier in the portal light. The result was not so good, because it was much more flat, the image. So I suggest you, when you use Maya and mental ray scenes with many mental ray features like the physical sun and sky, the Mia portal light, and you use Mia material, standard Mia material X or X passes shaders, I suggest you to increase the light contribution when you use the environment IBL lighting string option. Instead to increase the environment lighting scale, just increase the multiplier of the sky node, okay, of the mental ray sun and sky node. This is the correct workflow. We will stop around frame 5, subframe 5. Okay, now that we reach subframe 5 of the progressive sampler, press ESC to stop the render, and let's see the difference with the previous image. You can see by now already the time is increased, of course, because more light contribution, but as you can see, wait, from here, you see, let's go to the first one, which was that one with the light mode enabled. Okay, this is the first. This is the first image we rendered before with the environment lighting mode set to light. So let's compare with the new one, what we just rendered now. As you can see, the light is much more. Now the scene start to look real, photorealistic. So I guess this is the correct way to go. By the way, as you can see here down on the Maya, in the command line, you see the empty UV set map1 detected ignored. This is the same boring, annoying message that I showed you earlier in the presentation on how to fix this problem, just by automatic mapping or using other mapping procedures, techniques to map the UV on your poly mesh objects. Now what I would like to show you is, let's open again the physical sky node and input again the default value 1, so the image should be dark as before, as the first image that we render. But what we will do now is, let's go back to the string options, and I will show you the difference when you increase the light contribution using the environment lighting scale value. So the default is 0.318. Let's increase to, let's say, 2. 2 is I think is already very extreme. Let's see what happens. On my experience, this approach to increase the environment lighting scale value when you use Maya scenes with the mental ray physical sun and sky and the Mia portal light and the Mia materials, it will give you an image that will shift all the colors on the blue, which I don't like. But let's test if I am correct or not. So press enter one more time to be sure, and let's go to render one more time. Render region, and open again the output window. Now Final Gather is computing the Final Gather points, and from the result I can say that the value 2 is not so extreme. So what we will try first, we interrupt the render by pressing ESC, and we will input the same value that we input in the sun and sky, in the sky node, the physical sky node, okay? Like Dagon call it, is the daylight solution. Anyway, let's input the value 8, and press enter to confirm, and render again the region. Output window again, and let's see what happens. Now the final gather points are almost computed, as you can see from the image, and we start progressive rendering in a few seconds. Please notice that I don't bother to re-enable the irradiance particle string option that was disabled by the render setting panel, by the indirect lighting tab, because it's not important in this case, because we just use mostly the environment lighting string options, the IBL. So as you can see, now that the image is clearing up by the progressive rendering, everything is shifted on the blue color, as you can see, which can be useful for special effects if you like this kind of feeling, like an artificial light or this kind of things. But it doesn't work when you want to reach photorealistic results. Okay, now the progressive renderer reach subframe 5. Let it go to subframe 6 and we will interrupt the rendering. 1 second. It should be done in 1 second. Okay, now we can interrupt the render and let's check the result, the difference with the previous, when we increase the multiplier value of the sun and sky. Look the difference. Wait, this is the previous and this is now. You can see it looks very artificial, everything is shifted on the blue. This is much more pleasing result. So to conclude about the environment lighting scale, one more time, when you use Mia material shaders, sun and sky node, Mia portal light in conjunction with the environment IBL string options, instead than to use the environment lighting scale value to increase the light contribution, just use the color multiplier of the physical sun and sky node. Now just reset the default value of the environment lighting scale string option to the default 0.318, and I would like to give you a suggestion which is based on my experience in production, and there is another way to increase the light contribution, and this that one that I use many times when I do exteriors, like the Maya production scene 2011 that I showed you yesterday earlier with the array render. The other way to increase the light contribution is select camera, and yesterday I think I told you already, scroll under the perspective shape tab of the main camera, scroll down, and you remember when I told you of the Mia exposure photographic square centimeter factor. If you this is mostly for exteriors, because for interiors I suggest you to use the color multiplier of the sun and sky mental ray node, but for exteriors also you can increase, let's say to double, let's say to 8000, the square centimeter factor of the Mia exposure photographic node. Now let's put back the original value of 4000 that usually works well for my production scene, and let's select again the outliner, the Mia default option node, and back to the environment lighting string options. Let's scroll down a little bit more. First scroll down, yeah, okay, under is the progressive string option. So let's scroll up a little bit more and give a quick look to the other string option, which actually are the environment lighting quality. The name already implies that more you increase this value, And more the quality, the lighting quality, means the quality of the lighting contribution provided by the IBL node will increase, but I I test this many times. If you increase too much, let's say the maximum value for me is 1, absolutely, not more than 1. If you increase the environment lighting quality to 1, the quality will be very sharp, means will be better, not actually so much better, but definitely better than what we saw before. But the render time will be increasing as well very much. So I suggest you stay around values between 0.2 and let's say maximum 0.5 or 4, maybe better 4. I suggest you don't increase much this value, because if not your render will take very long time. We have no time to render because, as I can see here from the time, the presentation is already more than 6 hours. So let's put back the default input again, the default value 0.2 for the environment lighting quality. Trust me on my word, I am Italian. We don't, at least I don't lie. I will not show you the render to show you the difference now of the quality, but it's not so much different, the quality of the lighting, environment lighting solution, when you increase this value. And down to the other environment, let me check first, there's some other, no. So the last string option that we should check is this one. Transparent is the environment lighting shadow string option, which you by default is set to transparent. And let's open 1 second the PDF again. Okay, environment lighting shadow off, solid transparent. As I read for you before, control the shadows cast by EBL. Disable shadow casting if set to off. If you set to off, will be no shadows casting. If you set to solid, no, if you set to solid, the shadow will be opaque, means will be not the, we call ray traced shadow, the shadow that show that give the feeling of transparency, that you can see the detail in the shadow. So will be opaque, just black shadow, if you input the solid value. Or the full shadowing, calling shadow shaders. Here they say calling the shadow shader means it's ray tracing. Will be the full ray tracing shadow procedure done by mental ray. If you set the value to transparent, like we just did now. Now, since I hide many objects in the scene, we can try to see the shadow. I should bring out the object. Let's see. And let's try to, 1 second that I check again there. And let input the value solid for the shadow. Let's see how dark they get. Okay, solid. Okay, enter. And let's try a quick render. Maybe we can also try something more. We just, to speed up the render, just go brute force, no interpolation. So just we disable the global illumination and the final gathering features from the main features tab of the render setting panel. This in the Maya world, or not only in the Maya world, in the 3D world, we used to call brute force approach. Means you have no interpolation. It's like a very rough. You force mental ray to compute all the sampling and the light contribution without interpolation. Let's check in the indirect lighting tab. Everything is disabled. You see, everything disabled. So let's check a brute force approach with the solid shadow option, lighting shadow option. Let's open the window render view panel, and let's try a render. Let's see how long it takes. I love brute force approach. The problem is that is without interpolation, as you can see, is nice, means it's very contrast, high contrast, usually brute force approach, but is not as smooth as when you use final gather in combination with global illumination, importance and irradiant particles. Now let me stop the render 1 second and let me increase the color multiplier of the physical sky node. One more time, bring it up to 8. Let's see what happened. With the brute force approach and the shadow, the lighting shadow string option set to solid, let's see the difference. Render view panel and render region. By enable the keep layer option under the render drop-down menu in the render view panel, you really have a clear picture of all the different approach in the lighting setup. Okay, let's call it the lighting setup in your scene. Let me see the output window, what is saying, how we are going. Yeah, now we are already in the progressive, so it's already clearing up the image. Let's see what is the difference in the shadow, because the main point of this render is to see the difference between the solid opaque shadow and the transparent shadow of the environment lighting string option. Let's say stop on frame 5 again.